So what do you do in that 15% is what we're addressing.
Mm-hmm.
This means now this element of the percentages is me working with the cast to bring the play to life. So that means you're going to have a certain amount of rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do in the early rehearsals? That's what we're talking about today. Now, what's your inclination is the first thing to do?
The first thing to do would be to read the play as a company.
Okay.
Get together, get the entire cast together.
The whole cast is there. Where are they?
What do you mean, where are they?
I mean, just they sit wherever they want to. They stand around on the stage, or
right.
They sit in the audience and you sit on the stage?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Traditionally, you think of the table read as you just get around the table. I don't really like to do that. Sit around a table and just read. I sometimes like them to be on the stage and I'm out in the audience.
You're already working with them.
Yeah.
So you should work with them in the way a director's going to see them.
Right.
You should put them on stage. I would always put them in a semicircle.
Yeah.
Even if they're 4 characters.
Right.
In a semicircle.
Right.
Let's say in this play there are 20 characters.
Yeah.
20 chairs in a big semicircle. Now, where do they sit?
In relation to who they have to deal with the most. So you
closest,
yes.
Where in the semicircle is a semicircle perceived as every one of those parts is the same, of equal value, for instance?
I think they might look at the people in the center of the semicircle as the key components, right? Yeah. Dead center. Yeah.
And then the various people
right.
till you get to the people who are the least.
And they'd be on the edges.
They'd be at the end of the semicircle.
Right.
All right. Now, have you ever had pets?
No, I had tropical fish.
Yeah. But have you ever had a dog?
No. My neighbor had a dog.
And
so I bonded with that dog a little bit.
And you saw how the person deals with it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They'd take him walk.
Sure.
Take him for a walk and
sure.
so forth. You ever seen anybody with a cat?
Not too up close, but I know that the cat is a little more a lot more independent.
You never see somebody walking a cat on a leash.
No.
The cat won't go. The cat says, "You want to go there? I'm going to sit here.
I'm going to go my way."
Exactly. When you're dealing with actors, it's like trying to herd cats, trying to walk cats on a leash.
Right.
You always have to remember exactly who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you come in, you put everybody in the position you want them to sit.
Right.
And we're just going to have a read-through.
Right.
Now, knowing what kind of characters actors are,
right,
what's the first thing that's going to happen in a read-through?
They're going to start acting their roles.
Right.
In their heads, in their idea of the character, their idea of the play, their idea of this moment in this scene, yeah.
Okay. And why are they going to do that?
They want everyone in the company to see how good they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And that they should have been cast.
Yes. Don't worry, you have a good actor playing this role. So on the scenes, you'll be working out with me, no trouble. That's not what you want going on. What do you want going on?
Well, I would imagine you want them to read...
first read-through.
First read-through. You don't want the actors acting, but you want... it's a read-through for understanding, right? Now, is it a read-through at all for establishing chemistry, or not even? Like relating? No.
Read through for the understanding of the play.
For the understanding of the play. Okay. So do you...
Now, how are you going to keep them from acting and performing for everybody?
Well, yes, this was my next question, is what kind of introduction do you give them? Do you give them any instruction?
Now, I don't want you to act for each other. Just read the play. You're sunk.
then
all that will do is make the ones who hadn't thought about acting start to act. The other ones with the big parts will already be ready.
They're already doing that. So is there some key instruction that you give them?
Don't let them read their own part. And you don't give them just anybody's part.
So you would give George Emily, Emily George.
Yep.
You would give Mr. Webb, Mrs. Webb, Mrs. Webb, Mr. Webb. You would give Mr. Gibbs, Mrs. Gibbs, Mrs. Gibbs, Mr. Gibbs.
Right.
Stage manager.
You give the stage.
Simon Stimson. I don't know.
It depends on who you've cast for Simon Stimson. But it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'd have if you had the stage manager reading somebody small's part, it will give him a sense of what it's like for that person to only come in and play this little scene. People generally, an actor generally, since they're narcissistic, the important scenes he wants to play. The small scenes where the person comes in, he says 2 words to them, they say so, and go off. Do that from the seat of his pants,
Yeah.
And it will show him what this is that person's moment. Because he'll be sitting through, it can be a very instructive thing. You don't say a word to him about any of this. But it would be a very instructive thing for him to read a very small part and have to sit and wait. He's going to have more appreciation for what the person playing that small part is doing. And then when that person comes on, he will deal with them more genuinely,
right?
More importantly, just from having done that one little thing.
And with the parents, you would have them play Mr. Gibbs. Doc Gibbs would play Mrs. Gibbs,
right?
The husband, wife, yeah,
right.
Just reverse, and the gender obviously doesn't matter because
right.
You're just doing it for understanding.
Yeah.
The fact that they're doing
the
other sex. Yeah.
But another thing that it helps to deal with is actors know what I'm saying, and everybody says, well, it's a good actor if you can listen to the other person. Most actors don't give a shit what the other person says. I'm getting ready for my next line.
In fact, sometimes in a reading, you'll see the actor start turning the page. He's not even listening.
No, where's my next line?
My next line is page 42.
Right.
Let me get ready.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Everything you don't want them to do, they're doing. Yeah. So, quote, table reads, people sitting around with no direction or anything else like that. It's going to get everybody off on the totally wrong foot. Second thing, a table read, read the play, so now I'm reading the fucking play. So, somebody didn't read it? Jesus, all right, I'll read it. Everything about it, just quote a table read, sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Including the fact that you're not directing them. They're just reading.
They're just reading, right.
And they know you're just reading through the play once, and you're not going to be stopping them and giving them notes.
Right.
So they don't give a shit about what you're doing. It's chaos. So it's free for all.
So here's a question.
But the other way, in the semicircle, and you read it, and look, when you tell them this, nobody wants to do it, reading other people's parts. They don't want to do that. So you say, don't worry, I'm not recasting the play, but just for the read-through, humor me. I want you to read so-and-so. I want you, I'm supposed to read Mrs. Gibbs? Yes. We're just reading. I just want to read the play. I want us all to hear the play read aloud. So just read. What it does is he starts now being aware of what her lines are.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, my question was, okay, well, if there is that attitude of, we got to read the play, what, these idiots didn't read the play, then what is the value of even having the first rehearsal be the company read? Why not just start rehearsing? In other words, I'm rehearsing you, and you. You guys don't have rehearsal today.
Not only by doing this thing of having other people read parts that are going to play them, not only you stop them from doing 5,000 things that they would otherwise do, which are bad for the production, about acting and knowing who now I'm going to play off and all of that kind of Can't wait till I get to the scene with her because I really like playing off of her and all of this bullshit. You get rid of those things. But in addition, you gain insight in the actor without his even thinking about it or knowing about it of what the thing is that's going on around him while he's going to be doing his things.
Right. So in other words, I'm playing Doc Gibbs, but I'm now reading Mrs. Gibbs. I'm really aware of...
You will become aware without even thinking about
of what she says.
Of what she's doing, what she says, and what the actress has to do those moments. If you are an actor playing your scene of Doc Gibbs, and in the scene your wife cries, well, now she's supposed to cry. Well, cry. That person reading through In the very first read through, be reading along. So, oh, Jesus, she's got to cry here. You will also tell them, by the way, read other parts and all of that. I'm not recasting the play and all of that. You'll also tell them, don't worry about acting in this. You're not going to play this part anyway. Just read it. Just read it. Be easy. Just read it. Well, they're actors. So that unconsciously they're going to be aware of acting things. And that person who would otherwise be impatient with the woman, why didn't you cast somebody who can cry? Jesus, fuck, I got to wait around for her to cry? Because my line says, don't get upset.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that, you see somebody who says, I'm reading along and, oh, Jesus, she's got to cry already. Mm-hmm. They have an awareness. Because now, just because they're reading it, there'll be a little impulse to have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that will bump into, I'm not going to play it, so I don't have to do it. But, now I feel a little different about how it is she has to do that. Now, all of these things, you don't tell them.
Right. And you're also not asking them to read monotone with no feeling.
No,
you're
just read the play.
Just read it, simply.
Just read it for what it means.
Yeah.
What they think, by the way, it means.
Right.
But what it means. And that is a very valuable first rehearsal for all the things that I've just mentioned about how you're dealing with the actors and what actors are like. But also, you have already set them up in a very particular way, which shows you know what you're doing without thinking about it. They have a different feeling about you as a director than if everybody just comes and reads around the table.
Well, what will give them that sense that you know what you're doing? Because they might still come out of this going, oh, jeez, Harv made me read some other part.
Because the fact that when you put them in, I want him here, and I want her here, and here, and I want her parents here, and the other parents here. By the way, who would you put of the two parents next to Emily? In other words, the two parents going to be
mom or
next to
dad?
Mom or dad. You would put the one that she has the closest connection to in the play first, and then the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't explain any of this to them, but just the fact that you are specific about it makes them feel you know what you're doing. Because nobody just picks those things up out of a hat.
And for Emily, I would have to say it's Mr. Webb, because she has, it's her father, because she has those very nice moments with her dad.
Right. Then have those. Have him sit there. But the fact that you're telling them, no, wait, I want you to sit and then the mother.
I see.
Is going to give them
he's telling me, he cares about where we sit for this. Right.
Well, they won't take it negatively.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean,
but
I meant that as a positive.
What they'll do is that
he thought this out.
Subconsciously, it looks like it's thought out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So already you're directing them. Already they're able to start putting themselves in your hands.
Right.
Already they're trusting you.
Right.
The person that you didn't want to cast, because when you ask him, would you turn around and face up stage and read it for me now? I want to hear them. If you went on and cast him, now will be the guy who grumbles when you say, I want you to read other parts.
Right. Which is the guy you didn't want in the first place.
No, but I'm only referring now back to what I was talking about casting.
Yeah.
When you have some people do something, you're not sure that this person will work with you.
Mm-hmm.
And do what you want to do. And so you have him face up stage and give it or whatever else. Mm-hmm. Or you give him something to do you know he's not going to want to do and see if he'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
That is to deal with situations that I'm just talking about.
Right.
That when you start putting people here, it's a read-through. Then what difference does it make where anybody sits? Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's what you're going to get from that guy.
Right. And that's
who
a guy
wouldn't turn around.
And that's a guy you don't want in your
That's
company.
why you don't want those kind of people. I don't care how talented he is.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you've gone through and you've done a first reading, which is very beneficial. Because, by the way,
does it also build team spirit?
It probably does to some degree, because they will now listen to each other more and have an appreciation for each other more and have appreciation for what the other people have to do more, and without thinking about it. That changes their relationship to the other actors. They start to be in the same family.
Right.
Doing it this way, they're all going to think, what value is it if I read the other person's lines? The person with two words is going to think that. Actually, you get another value from the person who has a small part, but who now gets to read the
stage manager.
He's going to think, oh, he's letting me read stage manager. He does have some confidence in my ability. He didn't stick me in a part that's crummy just because he thinks I can't act. you'll get that value as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you get all kinds of values from doing this. Whereas the first read through of people just sitting there reading the play, they're all going to do bad things or nothing, which is already bad. And you're going to feel like, well, he's just sitting around. Obviously, he's read the play. He's directing it. So what the hell is he doing? He's sitting there watching me. He's watching me read the play. It all has a sense of no value. Except, okay, we read through the play. It's like a duty. It's like one of those things that everybody,
out of the way, yeah.
Oh, we got to do it, so let's do the first reading. We got to do it, so let's do the tech rehearsal. We got to do it, so let's do the sound rehearsal or whatever. You got to do it, so let's get the costumes on. No, it's not. It's never at any step should it be those things you got to do, like taking castor oil. Somehow it'll make me better. But now they have gone through something as a team. Everybody didn't want to read somebody else's part. And by the way, most people are not going to be vociferous about it at all. It has all kinds of values that help you, not the least of which is they will get the sense that if they're ponies, you are the person with all of the reins in your hand. And they need to have that sense. And directors push to get that by being autocratic or yelling or, what's the matter with you? I told you 50 You might as well shoot yourself in the head as to those kind of shit. Because nobody likes Stalinistic directors. Nobody likes dictators in that sense, and to be dictated to. Even somebody who's into masochism and S&M is going to say, wait, don't do that. That part I don't like. It's not just do whatever.
Is there anything else that you say to them before the reading other than where to sit and which other role to read and just read simply? And I'm not recasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Just doing this I want to make sure now that everybody's at least read the play, I will say in a joking fashion, where they think I don't really feel that. Mm-hmm. So that gives them 3 or 4 reasons that you may be thinking of, but you're just not explaining everything to them. They know you're not going to sit down and explain every motivation I have to them. Mm-hmm. And most of the things, what I was talking about early on, you manipulate a cast. This is what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. This is a manipulation of them to get them thinking the kinds of things I said before that they would be thinking. It's a manipulation of them. But since nowadays manipulation is used as only a horrible thing. Oh, he's manipulating me. You don't say that. And when we were first talking early on in the directing these sessions, I said, what you're doing is you're manipulating the cast. You don't tell them that, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're moving them around like a painter does colors on a page. And it makes no difference if the yellow doesn't want to be mixed with brown. You're going to do it. And you're going to have to do it in a certain way. And by the way, the yellow sometimes doesn't want to be mixed with brown. In other words, in painting, you have to paint one color and then the other on top. Because if you do it the other way, it's not going to work. And it's not just light or dark. It's still a mixture, but it's not the same tone. Mm-hmm. If you paint it all and you haven't given the thing a wash, you always give a canvas a wash. Then
the wash is clear, right? It's clear.
No, it's usually white.
Oh.
But it's not usually stark white. Mm-hmm. But it can be stark white depending upon what you're going to paint and the colors you're going to use. But it's a wash because everything goes on to that. Mm-hmm. You don't paint it on the canvas, really. You paint on the wash. Mm-hmm. And you have to do that because that color on the canvas doesn't function the same way. Mm-hmm. So even in painting, where say the colors don't have consciousness, they do demand that they be dealt with a certain way. And so therefore you're always manipulating the colors. Well, that's what you're doing with actors. It only means by manipulation, it only means I'm moving them to places that they don't realize I'm moving them to for values they don't understand.
Now, during the first reading, you don't interrupt, right?
No.
Let them read through the whole play.
I would interrupt for the intermissions. If you just sat and read straight through for 2.5 hours, first of all, the people don't have much to say. You're going to be bored half the time. Secondly, just the mental endurance is something that they don't have to do, even when you're in production, because you're going to have intermissions. And thirdly, it gives them an early sense of the rhythm of the play.
And you would take a little break in the intermission.
Yeah.
All right. Bathroom, drink water.
Take 5 minutes before we go into the Act 2. But it's not just to take 5 minutes for Act 2. It's to let them get a rhythm, a sense of the rhythm of the play. You don't say, look, I want you to notice the rhythm of the play now. They won't know what the fuck that means. But they will feel it when you take a break when you're supposed to. And by the way, things that are written in act form are rhythmically in act form, so that when you don't allow them that act break, they are at odds with the whole first 5 minutes of the second act, because it's a rhythmic change. So a play that is structured into acts of certain, that is set, the author has written those into those acts in a way that there's a structure. And that structure is now fulfilled, and it's part of the form of the evening. And they feel, when an act break is coming, it's never a surprise to somebody. They know it. They feel it. Oh, yeah. It is a culmination of all the things. It's not just, we're going to pause now. You don't do that. So even now, when the read-through, you'll give them a sense, because they're really kind of audience. And they're more audience for the play than they were if you let them read their own parts. Mm-hmm. And that's all to the good. The more they can be the audience for the play, the first read-through, the better it is. Sometime, by the way, in giving other people the lines to read, the actors themselves will see that line read in a way that has to do with a reality there that they didn't conceive of. So it already helped, because the other person just does it intuitively, but they catch on to things that the person who's playing the part, so they'll remember those things. Mm-hmm. They'll hear that line read in another way.
I have a question for you that I meant to ask a little earlier today. When you mentioned that amateurs will do art, if you will, for the wrong reasons, because they like it, or that would be interesting.
Well, it's not for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But for reasons that the artist wouldn't do it for.
Right.
What are the reasons that the artist does it for?
It's to reflect humanity. It is to show virtue her own image, scorn her own face, whatever the whole thing in Hamlet is. Mm-hmm. The point is to show art is always a reflection of life. There's a little element of life that one who is writing wants to reflect.
Or one who is directing or producing a play.
No, he wants to reflect that for the audience. He wants them to stop and smell the roses if he's writing Our Town. Mm-hmm. An artist does that to make that available, to make that experience one that the audience goes through. He doesn't do it because he likes it. He does it because the play he likes or respects or feels for, but artistically so. There's the definition of what is artistic and what is pornographic in James Joyce, Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. He says, when you want to do it to have it yourself, that's pornography. So that an art collector, to get that thing in my apartment, that's a pornographic response to it. It means I'm not doing it because of an appreciation of it. I'm doing it for what it'll feed me. And in pornography that's sexual, that's what it is. It's not to learn more about humanity or the people's lives. It's to see them fucking or sucking or whatever it is I like, so I can beat off while I'm doing it or whatever else. Mm-hmm. I'm using all of that for me. I'm not doing it as a shared human experience. The artistic experience is a recognition of truth, and the artist is always trying to tell the truth and trying to have people share in the truth. A didactic writer or painter is trying to shove it down your throat, trying to show you truth. No, it's not to show you. It's to have you experience it as we all experience it, as the author experienced it, as the good director experiences it, as the actors experience it. And we're sharing now an experience, and now the audience experiences it as well. That's when you feel the audience is, quote, with you. That's what's happening. When the audience is, quote, into it, or when the play, quote, is working. That's what's really happening. It's not that they understand the plot. It's not any of that kind of crap. It's that they get underneath what this whole thing is about. And that's when you have aha moments in art. You get it, you get it, you get it. Yeah, I know what this means. And by taking the first thing, which is just a read through, and making it something useful, you start to get that on a low level, even with your own cast. They start to have a greater appreciation from the play because they're not trying to act it now. And they hear other people read it certain ways. Oh, yeah, that value's in there. That's nice. Oh, yeah, I never thought of her that way. What is everybody going to do with a woman who's a town gossip? They're going to try to
play the gossip, cliche gossip.
Oh, yes, let me tell you about so-and-so. Now, what is everybody else going to do? She's just a town gossip. Once they start to get a sense of the play and see how she fits in there, they see that she does that for a reason. You can see her humanity in it. You can see her say things in a way that reveals that something has hurt her about the way that person deals with her. For instance, she never pays attention to anybody. It is cliche gossip. I never did like her. She never pays attention to anybody. Somebody got hurt by the fact that she didn't pay attention to me now. That the audience will respond to differently. It's not a gossip. Simon Stimson is not, when you let him be who he's supposed to be, he's not anything negative. He's something that you feel sorry for. The fact that everybody is always not allowed him to be alive, to be self-actualized, that he didn't have the courage to go somewhere else where maybe they would. But whatever that, his whole life now has gone down the tubes. If there's anybody in the play where Stop and Smell the Roses would have been wonderful, and he might, by the way, have known to do it, but they wouldn't let him because his roses are pink. So now, out of this first reading, there's a whole lot you get instead of a wasted first reading. Well, okay, now tomorrow we really get to work. No, they're already at work, they don't know it. The better they work, the less they'll know it, because you are getting them to do things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
At the end of the reading, any remarks or not even?
No, just it's a good idea if you always let people know ahead of time what the rehearsal schedule, at least for the week, is going to be, so that they'll know already the kinds of things you're going to do. So I would simply say, for the next 3 days, we're going to read through the play in kind of a script interpretation way, so that we can make sure we all know what the lines mean dramatically, not what they mean verbally. Okay? All right, good. Thanks, everybody.
I remember that we also all appeared in Hollywood at different times, and I suspected we all had slightly different scripts, which rather favored our parts. And since Laurence Olivier got there about a week before anybody else, he had Kirk Douglas's ear. And when we did the first reading of this, it didn't quite resemble what we'd received in the post and agreed to. And I remember that first reading with enormous clarity, because I was dressed in a relaxed manner that you find me in today, except I've moved with the times, I think. And Charles Laughton was in a dressing gown with his hair in curlers. And Olivier was dressed normally with a sports jacket. Kirk Douglas was dressed as a slave and covered with dirt and grime. He'd already been leaping from things. And John Gavin was dressed in the full regalia of an important Roman chief of the period. We started the reading, and it was quite different. It started out with Olivier in this version. And he put on a pair of glasses, very relaxed, and started reading the script.
O great Lord, although I don't know what, you will hail, O great one, that...
And it was like a litany in church. I couldn't hear what he was saying. And I saw Laughton's face out of the corner of my eye going. Then Laughton came in, made his entrance, and said,
Hail, you great gods of Rome.
And again, it was practically inaudible. And I thought to myself, if the race is going to be run at this speed, I'm not going to start sprinting. It's ridiculous. So my entrance came, I said, ha. My slaves will be willing to know this. And again, I joined the general litany. It was only John Gavin, who has the sensibility of an actor, and it was later your ambassador in Mexico, who seemed to be impervious to this general atmosphere of murmuring, and suddenly said, "Oh, great gods that here declare," and he was off on his own, rather, I thought. This went on, getting more and more awkward as we began to realize the script was rather different to what we had been led to expect, until Lawton suddenly stopped dead and said, "I don't understand this scene." And one smelled trouble. There was a look of complicity between Kirk and Laurence Olivier, and Laurence Olivier said,
"Well, I thought it's my idea, dear boy, this scene. I thought I would represent the future, John Gavin the present, and you, Charles, the past."
Charles, I think deliberately misunderstanding, said,
"Why do I represent the present?"
No, dear boy, you represent the past. It's Gavin who represents the present, and I represent
the future."
Well, it didn't get any further, and suddenly Olivier, exasperated by this almost animal dislike of Lawton,
said, "Would it help if I read it to you?"
And Lawton reacted.
Yes.
Laurence Olivier changed his glasses and read the scene. The quality of the silence greeting him was such that he eventually didn't have the courage to finish it,
and said more or less like that.
And Lawton said, biding his time,
"Yes, I thought for a moment, a little while back, that I might eventually understand it. Now I'm afraid I'm completely lost."
And we abandoned the reading. We all went back to our places, and that was largely why Lawton became extremely difficult and wouldn't do what he was given. And that's when I was called in by the powers that be and asked to write the scenes between him and myself, which I was glad to do.